So, you know, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
What I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise. Oh my God. Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
You know, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, you know, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we are going to be taking a look at Ken Ham. Ken Ham is going to be trying to prove... Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize I put it over there. Tonight, Ken Ham is going to be trying to prove that millions of years in the past just simply don't exist. And he's doing this as an argument against Old Earth Creationists who say that millions of years could be contained in the Bible. So, if you want to fuck around and find out exactly how Ken Ham is trying to do this, then please stay tuned. All right, heathens. Well, a little bit of a different thing tonight. We have I'm trying something new on. So if you're watching on the phone, you may have come across this in vertical, because we also have a stream going on where we're streaming in vertical to YouTube on the phone, or for phone and short stuff and everything like that, which sadly Daniel M super chat's not going to come through like on the main screen because he's on the vertical live stream. Daniel M, David says good night there, David. I hope you have an awesome weekend and an awesome rest of your night and everything, bud, and I guess we'll see you next week. The chats are split. I'm sorry, honey. Okay, well, I guess this will be the only time that I do this, but I just thought I'd try something different. But anyways, yeah, so there's two streams, two chats and whatnot. One is in vertical that makes it a lot easier to watch and everything like that on phone. Oh, it doesn't? Okay. Thanks for your input there, hun. But in any case, last month we were going to be donating to a
Tater's gonna Tate.
Was it cancer awareness? Yeah, I think it was a cancer awareness thing. We didn't actually find a charity just yet, but we will be donating at least $200 to a cancer awareness charity. So that's where some of the money that we made last month is going to go to. We got Trickster in the main video saying woohoo, hanging with Jack and John. So I actually have Jack Daniels, and this is the special bottled in bond version that's it's like 50% alcohol. It's pretty good shit. So yes, thank you so much there, Trickster. I am kind of keeping a track on both of the streams tonight. But in any case, all right, so we do have full slate tonight. We've got some news articles to go through. We also have comments to discuss, as well as we got Brosepha stopping by to talk about some science-y bullshit, and then we've got Ken Ham that we're going to be reviewing. So we do have a lot on the plate tonight, so let's hurry on up and get on over to the Today I Learned segment. Well, it's news and comments, but you know. All right. Y'all ready for my horrible singing? I know you love my horrible singing, so here we go. Today are news items that really suck. News items that really suck. Okay. So, I got the wrong thing up there. All right. We do have I actually worked up 4. I didn't have this set up before I started my bullshit. So we do have 4 news items that we're going to be talking about today. First one is something that really hits home for us here, and that's Tommy Tub of Shit. Alabama State Senator Tommy Tub of Shit. I mean, Tuberville, sorry. That's my little nickname for Tub of Shit. He's seen here making sure that he cradles the balls like a professional. He continues to be a disappointment to the state of Alabama, which some perceive as a massive feat in and of itself. It's kind of hard to be a disappointment of the cousin fucking state, but Tub of Shit manages to do it every day. This week, he claimed that we, quote, have 1 million people every couple of months coming to this country that know nothing about God. He's referencing, of course, the southern border issues the USA is currently experiencing. Tub of Shit, though, needs to review his notes that he's got written on the palm of his hand, because it's not 1 million people every couple of months, nor are they ignorant about God. During 2023, the Border Control actually had 2.5 million encounters with immigrants in total, and most of the immigrants survived Greg Abbott, thankfully. Just to pile on to Tub of Shit's misinformation here, an overwhelming majority of Mexicans do believe in God at about 78%. So saying that they know nothing about God is just a lie coming from Tub of Shit. Maybe not a lie, but he definitely doesn't know his shit. He doesn't know anything that he's talking about. He's just talking out of his brown star. None of this, though, is surprising from a senator that has everyone still calling him coach, like he's that jock that peaked in high school. That's it for Tub of Shit. He did say some really stupid stuff about IVF, which we may cover next week. Next up is this guy right here. Sherry Tenpenny and Leon Benjamin, seen here watching a small child being tortured by a Catholic priest in ways God himself is surprised by, wants to hold a mass exorcism of demon spirits that are controlling people in the government. This mass exorcism will be held during the State of the Union, so that the whole world can see about 65 to 80% of the Republican Party vomit out demons and Mitch McConnell crumble to ashes like he got Thanos snapped by Dark Brandon. Obviously, they think something else is going to happen, but just looking at Mitch McConnell, he's about 1 Taco Bell burrito away from dying on the shitter already. He's also, retiring in November. So, I mean, there's that. Oh, he's still staying in the Senate. He's just stepping down from being a leader because every time he gets up there to talk, he does that. Oh, he still has 3 years, but he's not running for re-election. Okay. Well, I'm glad he's out of any kind of... Well, he's not. Anyways, let's move on to banning porn for Jesus. Obviously, that's what Jesus wants. You can tell in the picture there. Oklahoma State Senator, Pastor Dusty Devers, seen here totally not looking up gay Jesus porn shit on Pornhub, thinks that porn is a tool of the devil. I mean, I feel like there's only one tool in that particular image there. And it must be outlawed so people can be freed from Satan's dirty, sexy clutches so that they can totally give their lives to Jesus. And about 10% of their income, too. You can't forget that. That's very important. You got to give 10% of your income and your entire life and soul to Jesus. To which millions of Christians said, huh? Because as a former Christian and teenager myself, I can assure you that my folder labeled Taxes 2002 didn't prevent me from following Jesus or asking for forgiveness every time I watched G-String Divas on the pirated HBO channel. That's channel 2, by the way. Dusty doesn't want to admit this, but you can suck Jesus' dick and surf Pornhub at the same time. You could probably actually find that on Pornhub and still be forgiven by Jesus. I'm sure that there's a whole porn niche for Christians if you search Pornhub. I mean, but I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm just saying it's probably there. Everything's on Pornhub, I'm sure. But Dusty Devers, I feel like, is like probably a pretty good porn name. So I would not be surprised if we found out that, you know, Dusty Devers is moonlighting as some kind of weird porn person. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for banning porn for Jesus. What do you think? Do you want to ban porn for Jesus or ban porn in order to help people follow Jesus? Didn't prevent me from jerking off, but maybe it'll help. Yeah, I know. That's how it's supposed to, I mean, it's like, it's a big thing. I just was layering it. I don't know, but on the vertical, my head is like right at Dusty Devers' crotch, so maybe that isn't a good look. Anyways. And so finally, I do want to bring awareness to this psychotic looking fuck right here. This week, Reverend Bill Cooks, pictured here, watching Republicans use children as a shield to force everyone to be a Christian or else. Met with Virginia Lieutenant Governor, Virginia Lieutenant Governor. Bill Cook is a radical theocratic fascist that wants to, quote, institute the government of God throughout every square inch of the earth. He's also claimed that the separation of church and state is tyranny and that Christians should reject the notion in general. And this is something that's set forth in the First Amendment. So he's actively advocating for Christians to reject one of the basic principles that comprises our government. He's also claimed that God would serve a, quote, no-knock warrant on the FBI agents involved in arresting January 6 insurrectionists, meaning that God would kill them. Obviously, God is the one that told him this, so he's got it from a reliable source that will happen eventually, I'm sure. He is also going to be traveling this election season to several swing states to push for theocratic fascist candidates, as well as advocate for a theocracy to be established by the current Republican representatives. Needless to say, this guy is a severe threat to national security, and he is getting to have a sit down with lieutenant governors. So basically, we're fucked. That's going to be it for the news this week. I hope that you guys enjoyed that little bit of scary shit. Now we're going to move on to comments. I hope that you're ready for it. I know I am. All right, just got to make sure it's out of tune. Comments of the day. love yourself, and then next week. That was great. All right. First up on the comments, we have this guy who commented on the YouTube channel recently. Vicky4A says, if it wasn't for Jesus, we'd still be using horses casually and living in stone houses. He started the real evolution. Evolution of what? Like, seriously, I don't know what this person is talking about. Also, do we not use horses casually now? Like, Budweiser has like this thing where they use Clydesdales in their commercials. I mean, I feel as casually as we can use horses, we still use them. There are still carriage rides that go on in like a lot of major cities, like New York. I believe, did we see some in New Orleans? Horse carriages. Yeah, I mean, I feel like as casually as we could use horses, we are still using horses casually. Also, living in stone houses. I mean, we have a full brick house. I mean, sure, it's got some wood in it, you know, but what house doesn't? Like, even the stone house. I guess maybe the primarily stone houses that houses used to be built out of, but I don't understand what Jesus had to do with the changing of architecture. Like, the Romans played pin the Jew on the stick one time, and that was about it as far as Jesus is concerned. He didn't make any kind of, like, radical, like, things happen. I mean, people afterwards, yeah, sure, but, you know.
Hey, just wanted to say you don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just got to suck my dick.
Platonic Cuddler says a secular state, as put forth in the first sentence of the First Amendment, is a threat to Christo-fascism, which most Republicans are in favor of. It is rather scary how most Republicans now are very much into the whole Christo-fascism thing. I said that kind of weird. Christo-fascism kind of thing. They're pushing it really hard, and it's rather scary, to be honest. All right. Next up on the comments. Thank you so much there, Platonic Cuddler. And we have a few member chats on the other stream. We've got Dr. Dan Hogg says, Mitch, I don't feel so good, Mr. Trump, as he's fucking floating away. Got it. That's awesome. And then Jonathan Hanachek says, gee, I dare you to tune that damn thing and play it once. Also, Caitlin Chloe's normally always right. And hi, everybody. Hey there, Jonathan. Thank you so much. All right. So next on the comments, we have Cleft Turnip 7774. In most cases, abortion is pretty gross, and gender reassignment on children is obviously wrong. I'm not religious. Couldn't tell. I got to say that in the correct tone here. In most cases, abortion is pretty gross, and gender reassignment on children is obviously wrong. I'm not religious. Okay, well, Cleft Turnip, good for you for not being religious, I guess. I don't really give a fuck, but also just working backwards in your comment here because you're a bass-ackwards individual, I can tell. I like the whole gender reassignment on children thing doesn't operate like a lot of anti-LGBTQ persons think that it does. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to gender reassignment in general, not just on children. Gender reassignment would go through several different professionals that would psychologically evaluate whoever wants to go through gender reassignment surgery. And I'm not even sure if gender reassignment surgery is even done on children. I haven't heard of it being done. Now, I have heard of some children being trans and whatnot, but not going through gender reassignment surgery or anything. Well, I guess they didn't say surgery in the comments, but I feel like gender reassignment on children being obviously wrong. I feel like, at least for me, I guess I'm presuming that means surgery, because other than surgery, nothing else is really permanent. And then finally, in most cases, abortion is pretty gross. In most cases, overwhelmingly most cases, abortion is actually done through like a couple of pills that effectively create a miscarriage. It causes the body to basically miscarry the child, and that's what a overwhelming majority of abortions are. The few abortions that do occur either later or are surgical abortions, they're not any more gross than any other surgery that exists out there. And so I don't understand why they think that abortion is gross. Abortion is medical care. People need medical care like abortion services. And there's also this whole thing, especially here in Alabama, to like basically ban sex education in schools unless it's abstinence only. Personally, I feel like that's pushing religion on the public school system, and using the public school system to push religion on children. And I think that's gross and wrong, personally. Next up on the comments, we've got Rick Deering 3204, who says, "Not worth debating you. All you have to have more faith to believe in evaluation." Evaluation of what? I'm kind of curious here. Like, what evaluation, are we talking about here? Is it like, yeah, thank you for your comment, Rick. I will consider that evaluation and whether or not I have faith in it. Oh my goodness. All right, next up, this is next to last comment, just in case anybody's keeping track. Jeremy Yates from the Facebook page. If you guys don't know, we have a Facebook page, rather popular. If you want to go there, it's facebook.com, Godless Engineering. You can find it there. Jeremy Yates here says, "You can't have objective morality without God. Let's hear what he was going to say. He only repeated what he heard. This sounds like a straw man. I think Frank was going to correct the question. The question was asked incorrectly." So this was on a video, like a short, like a vertical, like 1 minute clip that I put on Facebook. And yeah, so Frank did go and clarify the question and turned it into something that Frank was comfortable with actually answering. But still, I want to focus on the first part here, and that's you can't have objective morality without God. I don't understand this entire concept, to be quite honest. And the more that I think about the moral argument, the worse and worse it gets. Because I feel like this idea of morality being tied to God is completely divorced from our general sense of morality. Like what we consider to be our moral judgment now, or our sense of morality, or our moral foundation, is a separate thing than what God sets forth. Of course, God doesn't set anything forth because we don't really have any good evidence to suggest that God set forth anything or even exists. But if God did set forth things, he would just be subjectively defining what he prefers. And what he prefers doesn't necessarily directly map like 1-to-1 to our moral foundations that we actively use every day. And so this whole idea that you can't have objective morality or be objective about morality without God makes no sense, because God doesn't even use like a moral foundation that we would recognize as being like a moral foundation that would represent what's quote unquote written on our hearts, whatever in the fuck that would mean. God just specifies what he likes and what he doesn't like. And if you do what he likes, then God's happy. If you don't do what he likes, then he's mad. He's going to burn you in hell forever, as far as Christians are concerned. Other versions of the Abrahamic God doesn't necessarily send you to hell, but let's stick with Christianity, because I feel like Jeremy here is definitely talking about the Christian God. And then finally, we've got Catholic Toter. I don't know why I said it like that, but I feel like that's how you would have to say Catholic Toter. Godless Engineer. Would your type of thinking work in a marriage? Quote, give me the evidence that you love me. Okay, first of all, I wouldn't just say that to KC, right? I wouldn't just say that to her. I feel like, you know, if I ask, like, how do you show me love? She brings me whiskey. That's an act of love. She cooks me food. She helps me choose food whenever we're going out. She narrows it down to a couple of choices.
I let you borrow my charger that you lose.
Yeah, I lose her charger after she lets me use it. So my point is that you could provide evidence that somebody loves you. Somebody just merely saying that they love you would be anecdotal evidence, but I feel like actions speak louder than words, and so you could give a number of actions. Like, for instance, I got a good for instance. Today I went to pick up our son and take him to school, and I stopped by a convenience store, and I noticed that the convenience store had a couple of sodas that KC likes. And so I picked them up and brought them home. I'm like, look, I brought you a surprise. And I got her a surprise. When I got home, she thought the surprise was Taco Bell breakfast, but sadly I didn't think of that because we kind of had that yesterday. But, huh? Yeah, she's drinking, it's a Starry. What Pepsi replaced whatever they had. What was that? Sierra Mist? Sierra Mist. They replaced Sierra Mist with Starry. Anyways, so I brought that to her. That's evidence that, you know, I love her and I think of her and all that. So yes, it would work. Like, that particular thing would work. Honey, what wrong? You're not making any sense. You have to defend your assertion. Yeah, that's you're gonna find the next thing is pretty perplexing too, because I mean, obviously wouldn't say it exactly like this, but yeah, there's been several times where both KC and I have looked at each other and been like, I'm sorry, you're not making any sense. Can you like explain it to me better, or, you know, something like that? Like, this seems like a totally fucking normal thing, like, to say or ask. And then there's, we can't buy this house. It makes you happy, but it's not the most rational decision. Yeah, we didn't. That's right, honey. We didn't buy a house. We built one. But still, even this is a reasonable thing to say. Like, if we were looking at multi-million-dollar houses, yeah, well, I know this would make you happy, babe, but it's really not feasible right now. Like, yeah, that's a reasonable thing to say. The fact that this person thinks that this is not a reasonable thing is just perplexing to me. And then finally, it says, you need to open your heart and mystical side of your brain, not just the logical side. Mystical. Woo. I saw this meme this week where it had the Count from the Muppets. I forget what his name is, Count something or another. And he's like, you said something about catching these magical hands. And I feel like that's like what's being said here. It's like, what you need to have is, magical hands. Have this mystical side. Believe in magic. Open yourself up to magic. And I feel like that's what this person's asking me. And that's just simply not going to happen. Like, at least for me. Like, unless you can actually show me that magic exists, I'm not going to believe in it. And it's not that I'm only working with a logical side of my brain. I work with both sides of my brain, although you should see some of my drawings. They're not the best. So, I mean, the creative side isn't all that there, but it's still there and I use it. So, I mean, it's mostly taken up by, hillbilly voices and stuff. But anyways, so that's it for the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I know I did. And speaking of hillbillies, we got to go and get Brocephus. I got to get back to my transition-y thingy there. Brocephus is going to be talking some shit about science. I hope you guys are ready. Let me check the, it looks like Daniel M says, anyway, I have you and KC to thank for giving the correct information to help me get past, Daniel M, let's see, Dr. Hogg says your Brocephus impersonation needs work. I know, I'm going to go get him and I'll definitely be able to listen to him. And then we got Daniel M says, full disclosure, during my deconversion abortion was the hardest thing for me to get behind. I feel like I was traumatized by the religious people giving me wrong, traumatizing information when I was young. Anyway, I have you and Casey to thank for giving me the correct information to help me get past that. See member chat for details. Oh, thank you so much there, Daniel M. I really appreciate you, dude. And I'm glad that we were able to have that kind of positive effect in your life. So definitely, we both love that. So, all right, now we are going to be going to the Brocephus. I got to go get him real quick, so just hold on. Brocephus!
Shitty ass science! We're gonna answer some science shit really wrong.
Casey, how you doing? You know, I love that walk-on y'all got. Yeah, G didn't eat all of his grits, so I finished them off. I will drink his whiskey. Has he actually drank out of his whiskey yet? I don't know. Anyway, I'm definitely going to drink his whiskey. I love that whiskey shit. What's up there, heathens? He left the other one from last week up. That son of a fuck. Let's see. All right, that's the one. I got to find the right one now. Which one is this one? Okay. Yep, there we go. All right. Oh, shit. And now I got to reset it. Luckily, he told me how to, like, you know, fix all this bullshit over here. Hold on. There we go. Oh, I got to fix it for all the people on their little handheldy thingies. Well, I understand you feel that it's really stupid, so, I mean, I'll keep that in mind for next time or something. I'll be sure to persuade him not to be so fucking stupid for you. Okay there, Casey? I mean, he did the 2 streams, didn't he? Hell yeah. All right, Dr. Don Hogg says Brocephus explains the theory of evaluation. We're about to evaluate some bullshit right here. We've also got Trickster who says, hello, Brocephus. Don't let him take your blankie. I won't let him take my blankie. You tell him not to take my blankie no more. Okay, thank you for not letting him take my blankie. I gotta be nice to that shit? Okay, I guess I'll be nicer. All right, so here we go. Houston, we have a problem. They say the moon rotates at 10.5 miles per hour, which is 15.4 feet per second. They say also the moon has no atmosphere because it is in the vacuum of space. No. So already something that's wrong here. I mean, I'm not sure about all the specific fucking numbers, but let's just assume they're correct. They might be. Who the fuck knows? But the moon having no atmosphere doesn't have anything to do with the vacuum of space. It has everything to do with its gravitational pull. The moon has 1/6 the gravity of Earth, and it cannot hold or maintain that thick of an atmosphere. It's not that there's no atmosphere. It's just that the atmosphere is very, 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 very thin. If I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Let me go. I'm going to do it real time right now, okay? This is what you do. You open up a new tab in Chrome. Do it in incognito mode if you don't want your flat earther friends out there to think that, you know, you're actually researching shit. But you just go there and you go, does the moon have an atmosphere? It just automatically fill it in. Google is generating an AI response for some fucking reason. Yes, the moon has a very thin atmosphere known as an exosphere. You see, you dumb shit? All you gotta do is Google it. You can get to good information even from the Google AI thing, or there's the Natural History Museum, or there's space.com, not NASA. Oh, y'all don't like NASA. Y'all think it's Satan-y shit. There's a Reddit post, sci-fi writing. There's a lot of resources out there where you could go and you could get answers for these very basic questions, but they steadfastly refuse to do the most basic of shit. All right. Moving on. So vacuum of space, that shit's bull. That just doesn't make sense. So when the Freemason astronauts jumped up, they should have landed in a different place. Well, first off, I have to ask, how do you know they didn't shift a little bit? How do you know they landed in the exact same place when they jumped up? I don't think that you know any of this bullshit. But also, even though the moon does have 1/6 the gravity of Earth, it still has a gravitational pull due to, I'm sounding way too smart for myself right now. I don't know what's happening. This is, y'all, do you remember that? Oh, what's that movie with Will Ferrell? That other Wilson without the broken nose? Old School. Have y'all ever seen Old School where Will Ferrell blacks out in the middle of a debate, gives the exact right answer, and the fucking Cajun dude can't respond, and that's this moment right now. I'm not going to remember anything after this. Dr. Don Hogg says, how many New York City's worth of structures before the moon has enough mass to maintain an atmosphere? Anything to avoid the metric system. Let's see. I wonder if the Google AI can give us an answer for this. Let's put this in there. I just copy pasted that shit. There's no clear answer right now. I have no fucking clue. Best of luck to you figuring that shit out there, doctor. Appreciate your super chat, though. Thanks for giving us money. All right, so let's continue with this bullshit. Even if they jumped up for only 1 second, they should have landed 15.4 feet from where they jumped, but they didn't. How do you know that they didn't, you dipshit? Also, again, gravitational pull, the astronauts are right on the surface of the fucking moon. Even though it has 1/6 the gravity, it would still pull them along with the rotation of the moon. Which, I know that they are not going to understand this, but the moon is tidally locked with the Earth. That means that the moon rotates at a speed where the same face of the moon is always facing the Earth. That's why you don't ever see the other side of the moon. Just a little fun fact for any dipshits out there that thinks that the Earth is flat and that we never went to the moon. Like Armored Skeptic. That dipshit. Yeah, I don't fucking like Greg no more. They landed on the spot where they jumped. Again, you need to have proof for this claim, okay? I mean, I know I believe in God and everything, but you at least have to have some kind of proof for this bullshit. Remember, the moon has no atmosphere. No, it has an exosphere, and it's very thin. Not that it doesn't have an atmosphere, you fucking twat. So as soon as anything leaves the moon's surface, it cannot be moving with it. That's not what it means. Just because the Earth has an atmosphere, that doesn't automatically mean that things are pulled along with the Earth because of the atmosphere. The shit's pulled along with the Earth because of the gravity. God damn. Think about it. Take as long as you like. I did think about it. And you know what? I came away with the fact that you're a dipshit and you put up some kind of bullshit meme thinking you were making some kind of point that only the Armored Skeptic would be convinced by. You fucking asshole. Anyways, this has pissed me off. I'm going to take GE's drink here. And I'm going to go. I spent all day researching this bullshit, and so now my brain's fried, and I got to go get my blankie, lay down with the whole bottle of whiskey that GE's not going to drink, or at least he won't have the chance to drink, and then I'm going to pass out. So, y'all need to repent, go back to Jesus, love the Lord, and I guess we will see you heathens later. Don't forget to burn in hell. Bye, y'all. How was that? Was that better? I added some more science to my routine. Maybe they'll like me now. Do you think? You think they like me anyways? Yeah, I do. Even though I got the Christ-colored glasses on and everything like that, and said they were burning in hell? Yeah. Oh, shit. Hey, GE, I took a swig of your drink. You did fucking what? Man, you owe me a bottle. I heard you. You were going to go and drink the rest of it, pass out in your bed with your blanket. Don't be surprised if you wake up without it. Fuck, what else am I supposed to do? Charge him more rent? Hang out with you, don't worry about him? Got it. All right. All right, so we're done with this, and I have no notes. No notes for this. I mean, I thought Brosivas did a fabulous job. Both Brosivas and I, even though we disagree on the whole God thing, we agree that flat Earth dumbassery is dumbassist. Dumbassiest. It's the dumbassiest thing. It's the dipshittiest thing on the internet. Yes, let me rewind that, re-record it. It's the dipshittiest thing. All right, so we do have a video to get to tonight, so I'm going to go on ahead and transfer over there, and hopefully the vertical comes along with me. It did! Oh, damn, that's not a face you ever want to see. Let's see, is this thing on? No, I mean, it shouldn't. It says that it's still live on my side. Okay, let's see. No. DLC, this one. There we go. There he is. Now, that's not normally the first thing you want to see at all. Although, I do like how Ken Ham seems to be confused by the video camera just existing in front of him. Also, this seems to be at the Ark Encounter? Maybe? I mean, you can see construction equipment back there, so I think this is at the Ark Encounter. Anyways, I have to say, first off, fantabulous shot right here. I think that they did a great job of setting him up in front of a window or something, out there at the Ark Encounter. All right, so tonight we're going to be going over Ken Ham explaining how there isn't millions of years either in the past or in the Bible. So he's arguing against evolutionary theory, obviously, because that's all that Ken Ham knows how to do. And then he's also arguing against Old Earth Creationists. Now, Old Earth Creationists are creationists out there that believe that the Earth is millions and billions of years old and that the universe is billions of years old. 13.6 or 13.8 billion years. They believe that it's that old. They just believe that God is the one responsible for the universe. God is responsible for humans being here through a manipulation of evolution or manipulation of organisms on this planet. And they have this very specific argument on how to reconcile Genesis with the reality of deep time, which is what that concept is called. Deep time is this concept of millions and billions of years existing. And so we're going to go through a little bit of history tonight with the history of uniformitarianism, the history of deep time, and the history of evolution. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, along with how Ken Ham fails to disprove the whole gap theory thing, but also how his preferred theory of literal days also doesn't make sense. So I hope that you guys got your butt holders a holding, because we got a lot of shit to go through. You're holding your butt there, bud? Babe? Bae? Sorry. Just switching up some things here on both of the chats. If you would like to get your voices heard, by the way, on this video tonight, or if I miss any kind of information you feel is pertinent, please consider sending a super chat. That helps us donate to charities every single month. And last month, I believe we were donating to a cancer awareness charity. This month, I'm not sure what we're going to be donating to yet, but we do pick a charity every month to donate to. So, all right, let's get to it.
Back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, there were secularists, atheists primarily, some deists, who rejected the Bible and rejected the flood of Noah's day, who said, how do we explain all the fossil layers that are laid down over the earth with all these dead things in them?
I mean, that's a good question. How do you explain that from a creationist point of view? Typically, they explain it with the flood of Noah, and they claim that because there's this sort of natural sorting that occurs. Basically, heavier things sink to the bottom while lighter things pile on top of them. And so that's why we find the layers in the geologic column. That's also why we find dinosaurs at various different portions of the geologic column. But this doesn't actually make a lot of sense for a few reasons. For one thing, you have a mixture of densities in the geologic column. So you have lighter things on that are below heavier, more dense types of material. You also have a steady progression of fossils through the geologic column. And if Noah's flood were to be the thing that caused the geologic column to form on the earth, then ideally what we should see is a mixture of dinosaur bones from different periods that we've identified, right? We've identified several different periods that contain certain dinosaur fossils. And so we should be able to find layers out there that have a mixture of these fossils. And we simply don't do that. Like, we don't find them. Not that, anything's being manipulated or whatnot, but that that's just simply not how the geologic column is actually organized. How it's organized is in this steady time table, basically, of organisms that have existed on this earth. And you never find an organism that only appears at the top of the geologic column, so more recently in our history, at the very bottom of the geologic column, which would be in the more distant past. So organisms that existed more recently or died more recently and existed more recently only appear closer to the top, while organisms that lived and died and went extinct farther in the past only appear in the near the bottom of the geologic column. And so this is a big thing that a lot of creationists can't get over, this fact that we don't have fossils mixing in the layers. We also don't have fossils that are traversing layers, like going from one layer to another. They're always in the same layer, and then more fossils appear in the next layer. And so it just progresses like that. You've never found a fossil that's traversed layers. Now, there is the matter of these trees, polystrate trees, polystrate fossils that seem to traverse layers. But the problem with that is that the trees, you can actually find fossils of the roots in the layer below the tree. And so that shows that the tree was there and then layers formed around it. And for the trees that don't have the fossils in the root fossils in the layer below it, those trees were just moved, through whatever kind of natural forces that caused the tree to move, and then layers formed around it. And all of this has actually been very well documented and studied, to the point of it's established fact at this point. Like, this is stuff that you learn about in textbooks rather than are actively being studied in science. And we've known about this since like the early 20th century. We've been able to explain these things. Actually, I think much earlier than that. I think maybe the 19th century is when we were actually able to explain these types of fossils. So all in all, just to get to the point here, Ken Ham is going to try to explain how the flood created all the fossils, but that just doesn't work. And I have my own reasons for thinking that the Old Earth Creationist model doesn't exactly work necessarily with how the Bible's been traditionally understood, but that doesn't rule it out entirely. as far as them having a more viable hypothesis than young Earth creationism. The problem that I feel with old Earth creationism is that it's a lot of speculation and ad hoc argumentation. They just basically say God did it, and they don't really have a good explanation for how God did it, why God did it, or any evidence that actually directly shows that God did it. So those are some of my issues. So let's let Ken Ham actually finish or continue with what he's trying to explain here.
Well, they weren't there to see those fossil layers form, but they said, oh, they had to be laid down slowly over millions of years. By the way, that's where the idea of millions of years came from in our modern world. It came primarily out of atheism, out of people who believe in naturalism, that everything happens by natural processes.
Well, no, that's not exactly true. I believe it was, let's see, I know it's Charles Lyell. Hold on. I got my notes saved over here. Right there. Charles Lyell and James Hutton were two of the leading people that established like uniformitarianism, this idea of deep time, and contradicting the Bible. But the problem is that the concepts that Ken Ham is attributing to atheism obviously has nothing to do with atheism. Atheism is just simply not believing in a God. Anything outside of that is some other topic area. In this particular instance, it's archaeology and geology. And so James Hutton and Charles Lyell, James Hutton, I believe, was first, and then Charles Lyell came in behind him to advance some of the concepts. But both of them were Christian. Like, they believed in the Christian God. They just were advancing ideas that contradicted what Genesis was telling people, at least a literal translation or a literal interpretation of Genesis. And this is all due to the evidence that has been found. And uniformitarianism is very well supported. The geologic column supports uniformitarianism. In case you don't know what uniformitarianism is the idea that natural processes work slowly, and they work consistently over time. So the natural processes that are occurring now occurred in the exact same way all the way back in the past when the Earth was forming, after it formed, while the dinosaurs were here and all that. These same processes are taking place on different planets, taking place in different solar systems, and they're all operating in the same fashion as far as like the conditions and everything that exist here on Earth and as we experience them. So uniformitarianism is just basically saying that nature is uniform in its processes, and they all operate in the same ways that they have always operated in, and there's no reason to think they operated differently. Now, how does this affect creationism? One of the primary concepts in creationism is basically that physics and all of reality operated fundamentally differently prior to the fall of Adam and Eve. And because Eve decided to eat a fruit salad at the behest of a one-eyed snake, a snake, she was convinced by a talking snake to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And that caused reality to fundamentally shift and change. Or I guess God would have been responsible for fundamentally changing reality. And at that point, God fundamentally changed everything to act in a uniform nature with how it operates now. The problem is that we don't have any evidence of this sporadic change in physical reality. There's no evidence of it whatsoever. And until Ken Ham or other creationists can prove that there was this instant sporadic change in the fundamental way reality operates, it's going to be an ad hoc and speculative argument that has no basis in reality or in evidence. So Ken Ham is just talking out of his ass, to put it more bluntly. But he's saying all this is coming out of atheism, out of this desire to deny God or something like that, which is kind of what the underlying, like if you read between the lines kind of thing, that's what he's trying to say here, is that people don't want to believe in God, or people want to destroy God. And so therefore they're advancing this idea that nature operates the same as it always had. as if that were some kind of crazy idea.
No supernatural involved. Now, what happened in history, in church history, there was a man, a great man of God actually, called Thomas Chalmers, the founder of the Free Church of Scotland, who said, well, we can take the millions of years and fit in a gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. And that's really the origin of what's called the gap theory or the ruin reconstruction theory. It's
Okay, Doubtful Form said, not to mention all of the dinos fossils are capped by a layer of iridium. So unless Adam and Noah were dodging asteroid impacts, that's a good thing to mention there, Doubtful Form. Thank you so much for that. They are mentioning it on the vertical stream that we're running right now, which actually has a lot more viewers than the regular stream. But that's a good point. There are all these incidental things, maybe not incidental, but these other aspects to the geologic column that can't be explained by creationists, like the iridium layer and other things that can't be explained. Like another thing that they can't explain is why meteorites that strike the Earth and bear the markings of being formed when this solar system formed, when the Earth formed, why they date to 4.45 billion years ago or whatever. They can't explain that, and they can't explain why radiometric dating gives us the ages, other than God just wanted to deceive us and all this other kind of shit. But as far as what Ken Ham is talking about here, Ken Ham is pointing out something a little bit useful, in that in order to reconcile a literal understanding of the Bible with reality, people have to ad hoc suggest that there's millions of years in there. Now, I'm not exactly chastising Old Earth creationists with this. I'm just saying that I feel like it definitely is ad hoc to say that, oh, well, there's just millions and billions of years between these two lines in Genesis. That doesn't mean that that's not a coherent explanation, or that it's not a good explanation for what could have been communicated in that passage. I feel like if you take into consideration when that passage was written, who it was written by, I don't think that they would have understood the concept of millions and billions of years. And so, they wouldn't have written that in there. So if you can fit millions and billions of years in there, that might be a coherent way to explain it. But I feel like it's, as coherent as literally reading the Bible, in as far as like a literal 6-day creation, because they're ad hoc presuming shit. The gap theorists, they are ad hoc presuming shit. So as far as from like an actual objective look at the arguments being pushed forward here or being made, they seem to be somewhat on a level ground. But I feel like the gap theorists have a bit more of a coherent explanation, given all of the evidence that we have, than the young Earth creationists, because they are obviously working against actual science that we have, whereas at least the Old Earth creationists are trying to work with the actual scientific information that we do have. Dr. Don Hogg says meteorites imply the existence of meteor-wrongs. Good, fair, good point. All right, let's see what Ken Ham has to say.
It's really a way of trying to fit man's belief about millions of years into the Bible. And most people in our churches have heard of the gap theory. It got into the Schofield Reference Bible, in the notes, of course, it's not in the text. And a lot of people believe this idea that, it sort of developed over time too. But the classic gap theory is that God created everything, but then Lucifer rebelled. And as a result of that rebellion, God judged with a flood called Lucifer's flood, and that's where your fossils supposedly fit. And then God recreated everything in 6 days. But
I mean, considering that all of that is definitely not in the Bible, yeah, that seems to be a bit hard to swallow there. I'm not saying that if you're a Christian, you have to be a young Earth creationist. I definitely applaud Old Earth creationists for at least working with science and trying to fit it in. But I do feel like that explanation right there, which again, I don't know why I'm taking Ken Ham at his word. I don't know if that is how gap theorists actually explain the millions of years, like what happened in that millions of years timeline. I have heard of God recreating all of reality after the fall of Lucifer and everything like that. So that might be, a popular thing for Old Earth Creationists to say. Not exactly sure, but still, let's just, work with what Ken Ham is explaining here. That is a little hard to chew on, considering all of it is ad hoc and speculative. We don't, as far as I know, we don't have any actual like church tradition that would suggest any of this. Probably primarily because church tradition is young Earth tradition. I feel like it wasn't until like James Hutton, Charles Lyell, that we started to understand how deep time actually was. And so, I mean, I feel like church tradition wouldn't support this idea, but I also can't chastise the old Earth creationists too much, because what they're experiencing is a bit of cognitive dissonance, and both Ken Ham and Old Earth creationists are experiencing cognitive dissonance, and they resolve it in different ways, and that's what this argument is over. Ken Ham chooses to reject new information in favor of his preferred narrative. That's how he resolves this cognitive dissonance of all of the evidence that we have for an Old Earth model, I guess, or deep time, uniformitarianism. That's how he resolves it. Now, Old Earth creationists, they resolve this cognitive dissonance by taking that new information and reworking their worldview in order to explain it, I guess, better, working with the new information. So I do have to give Old Earth creationists that credit for not just outright rejecting the mountains of evidence that we have for deep time and uniformitarianism and all that kind of jazz. But their explanation, as far as how Ken Ham explains it here, does seem very, very speculative, although I don't think that on orders of magnitude it's any more speculative than Ken Ham's explanation. Doubtful Form says there are different streams. Yes, Doubtful Form. There's one vertical and there is one that is regular, like landscape, full on, how our normal streams are. So it's not this vertical stuff, which apparently will be a one-off. Okay, I know. The two chats definitely makes it harder. All right, so let's see what Ken Ham has to say.
There's some major problems with that. First of all, you're trying to fit millions of years into the Bible. Secondly, why would you have a flood the Bible doesn't talk about, explaining the fossils, instead of the one it does talk about, and that is the flood of Noah's day?
Okay, so I like how his first problem with it is that it has millions of years. Like, that's his only like, that's the first thing that he lists off. The first problem is you're putting millions of years in the Bible, and that really doesn't work for Ken Ham's idea. That's the one thing that he doesn't like about it. Or not the one thing, but that's the top thing that he doesn't like about it. The next thing, second thing, is that, why would God not talk about this flood in the Bible? As far as creating dinosaur fossils, but he does talk about this other flood. Amazingly enough, the Bible doesn't talk about fossils at fucking all. And of course, Ken Ham thinks that the Bible does talk about dinosaurs, right? Dinosaurs existing. We've gone over Ken Ham's little children's book here on the channel. I actually had Paula Gia on to talk about it one time. And we actually haven't finished that. Jesus rode a dinosaur. That's right. And so Ken Ham thinks that, that this millions of years couldn't have existed, but also Ken Ham doesn't believe that this other flood could have happened and just God didn't tell people about it, or God didn't write about it, which, he doesn't know God's mind. So he can't say that it didn't happen, right? Oh, there it is. I forgot that we still had this. Yeah. So it's green, so it's a little see-through. Dinosaurs of Eden. This is Ken Ham. You see, illustrated in by Earl and Bonnie Schnellenberger, but it was written by Ken Ham. And I don't know if you can see it back there, but there's a little Stargate thing. Wah wah wah, Stargate. So this is what Ken Ham thinks happened. If y'all can see this, Ken Ham literally believes that people rode dinosaurs. They kept them as pets, kind of like in that Jurassic Dominion, or yeah, Jurassic Dominion is it called? Jurassic World Dominion. Yep, and you see the little star children up there. Just to go through some of these. Oh, hey, look. Yeah, you know what I like about this part right here? If y'all can see. There's definitely a carnivorous fucking dinosaur, a Ceratosaurus, right? Munching on a fucking leaf with his sharp-ass fangs. That other motherfucker right there, the Dinochus, back there eating some fucking lemons. All right? And he's got sharp fucking teeth too. So, I mean, that's what we're working with here. Eve up there naked as fuck feeding a dinosaur. That would be uncomfortable. I feel like that would hurt you. Daniel M says, totally see what you're doing with the two streams. You are capturing the duality of man, or some deep philosophical shit like that. See, I nailed it. Thank you so much there, Daniel. So yeah, that's what, so, I mean, as far as orders of magnitude go, I feel like both Ken Ham and the gap theorists are proposing shit that is just ad hoc to start with. But I feel like on orders of magnitude, they're pretty much on the same level. I do sympathize with Ken Ham saying like, well, you know, why didn't he talk about the flood that created the fossils? You know, Noah's flood. He talked about Noah's flood and creating the fossils, but you know, didn't talk about this earlier flood that created the fossils. But I mean, in the Bible, it doesn't actually explain the creation of fossils. It doesn't talk about, you know, dinosaurs being killed in the flood. I would think even in this book right here, right? Ken Ham advances the idea that dinosaurs were on the ark and that they survived after the flood of Noah. And after the flood of Noah, they were hunted to extinction, basically. And that's how they explain the extinction of the dinosaurs. And if that were the case, again, we would see that there are, you know, there would be dinosaurs in the same layers from different eras that we have identified, but we just simply don't find that. All right, let's go, Ken Ham.
I believe most of the fossil record is a result of Noah's flood. Now, here's an interesting situation. The reason the gap theory was invented in the first place was to try to accommodate the millions of years proposed by people who said the fossil record was laid down slowly over millions of years.
Well, that's not exactly how I feel like he's misrepresenting the development of these ideas, and he's mixing the fossil record with the geologic column, and he's mixing uniformitarianism with all this too. Uniformitarianism came first and would be able to explain why we find all of these layers, and then the fossil record, you know, the fossils being found in specific layers would have helped support uniformitarianism, would have helped support deep time that was already developed. So, I mean, it wasn't like developed so that they could explain the fossil record. It was developed, and then we started noticing all these fossils popping up in different layers. I think he's got his time frame wrong here, or his timeline of events wrong.
That's where the millions of years came from. But then with the people who promoted the gap theory used a flood, a catastrophe called Lucifer's flood, to try to explain the fossil record to account for the millions of years, but the millions of years came from the idea the fossils were laid down slowly. So they just did away with the reason they wanted the millions of years in the first place. Because if the millions of years came from slow deposition over millions of years to form the fossil record, you can't take that and explain it away with a catastrophe and say that's how we fit the millions of years in. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I do believe that the fossil record and the geologic column can't be explained with catastrophism, which is what he's describing here. Those ideas are definitely in contradiction of one another, because don't mix up catastrophism with just catastrophes happening. What we would consider catastrophes have always happened in history, like floods happening, where floods would happen, severe weather events in the past happening and causing animals to be killed and covered quickly. Those kind of catastrophes have happened plenty of times in history that we've actually found evidence of in the fossil record. But the idea of catastrophism is that there was one big event that caused things to happen. And that's exactly what we don't find in the fossil record. And we don't find any support in the geologic column. And so I do agree with Ken here that these ideas do clash with one another. But I feel like the gap theorists, could explain it in any kind of number of ways. But if it works, like Ken Ham is talking about here, I don't understand what the difference is in claiming, well, there was this world prior to the world God created for Adam and Eve, and then he flooded it all and killed all of them, and in this flood, this destruction caused the geologic column to form the way that it was, and then God remade life on Earth and everything. Like, I don't see how that's fundamentally different than what Ken Ham is suggesting. It's just that Ken Ham is primarily working with what the Bible says, while the gap theorists are trying to make sense of the evidence that we have for uniformitarianism and deep time and the fossil record, geologic column, and all of that, trying to make sense of it with their faith. And so, again, this is a way to overcome cognitive dissonance, working in that new information into your worldview, and then, having that new information along with the worldview that you previously had, producing a new kind of worldview. So I'm not knocking that, but I do feel like Ken Ham is going a little bit too far here to portray them as being ridiculous when he likewise is proposing something equally ridiculous. We had a super chat from Alan Conklin who says, "Dinosaurs! Hey, look, fruit!" As if the dinosaurs would be like, "Oh man, I really want some fruit. I definitely don't want to eat whatever in the fuck that is over there, like a cute lamb or a puppy or something." I mean, yeah, dinosaurs would eat dogs, like carnivorous dinosaurs. They'd fucking eat a chihuahua. Like, that's like a Tic Tac to some. Like, can you imagine a T-Rex eating a chihuahua? I mean, that's just like, well, it's ridiculous. But also, it'd be like, taking your finger and getting some cream off the top of a cake and being like, Well, yeah, frosting. Sorry, I was thinking of the the cream cheese frosting. Yes, I was thinking of cream cheese frosting.
So there's no way you can fit a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2 anyway, because of the way the Hebrew is written. When we read the phrase "and the earth," it's the verb with the noun earth as a verb disjunctive. That means it's really a comment verse on verse 1. In other words, verse 2 is really, the earth that God made, it was without form and void. In other words, didn't really have anything in regard to form to it, because it was just a watery, mattery blob, if you like. It was just covered with water. God didn't make the dry land appear until day 3, that then really gave it form. So verse 2 is sort of a description of the earth in verse 1. So really reading it through from perspective of historical narrative, typical Jewish historical narrative, it's in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, darkness was upon the face of the deep. That's just a comment on verse 1.
Well, okay, so I get what he's saying here, that it's a comment on verse 1, but I don't think that necessarily rules out the gap theory proposed by Old Earth Creationists. Because I feel like with the amount of liberties that Ken Ham takes with the Bible and what's said in the Bible and things that are just, hold on. Like, I feel like I really have to emphasize, like, he's criticizing them, right? For basically just making shit up and everything. And, he's got, hold on, he's got shit like this in his book that he's teaching, like, he wants to teach kids about. Like, that's what is that, Cryolophosaurus? I don't know. It's a Cyclopsosaurus, and he's fighting with a Dilophosaurus, which looks radically different than Jurassic Park. I mean, I feel like the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus is much better. But they're fighting over a fucking, what is that? A bull or an ox? Something in front of a fucking straw house. And you're going to sit there and criticize Old Earth Creationists for inserting a flood between two verses? Two verses that, don't necessarily rule out their entire idea. But yeah, this shit, really? Huh? I am glad you got the book, honey, because it's a very good example of like how ridiculous Ken Ham is in his critique of shit. I don't think that he's actually retracted anything from this book, Dinosaurs of Eden. Like, he's portrays it as if you were to be able to go through a Stargate that wraps around a sun going all the way back in time. If those of you that have watched Stargate know what I'm talking about. Goes back in time to 65 million years or more in the past. Well, I guess for him it would be 6,000 years in the past. But you were to go back into the past like that, and you would be able to visually see what it was like. There would be fucking dinosaurs fighting over food in front of straw houses. But yeah, inserting a flood and millions and billions of years between two verses in the Bible is fucking ridiculous. That's not to say that I agree with the interpretation. I'm just saying that Ken Ham is as equally ridiculous as the people that he's criticizing.
And God said. So it really goes from verse 1 to verse 3, and God said. And if you believe in the gap theory, you've also got death before sin. The Bible makes it very clear, by one man sin entered the world and death by sin, and that man was Adam, the first man, Adam, who was made on day 6. So you can't have all this death in the fossil record before sin.
Okay. I feel like the problem here with Ken Ham's criticism of Old Earth Creationism is the fact that he's limiting
Hey,
God.
just wanted to say you don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just gotta suck my dick.
Trickster says, yabba dabba doo! Ken Ham is full of poo! That was a good one, Trickster. Thank you so much for that. Ken Ham seems to be limiting God here, and I feel like that's something that Ken Ham wouldn't necessarily want to do. Like, I feel like Ken Ham limiting God would definitely be an affront to his worldview, because Ken Ham believes that God is all-powerful. If God's all-powerful, then it doesn't make sense that he would be limited in his creation prior to the fall of Adam and Eve, and that God couldn't decide to kill everything. I know that in this new world, death entered the world through Adam and Eve's sin, but who's to say, right? Because no evidence exists for any of this, right? So we can speculate out of our ass and come up with a coherent reason, right? So speculating out of our ass with this new idea not new idea, Old Earth Creationist idea. Sin could have just been part of the world prior to God remaking it, and therefore God could easily kill his organisms. And then when God remade the world, he's like, you know what? The sin thing, I'm going to take that out. But of course, that would mean God didn't have foreknowledge. So maybe he was like, you know what? I think it would be better if I made my creations think that they were to blame for sin. And that way they felt all this guilt. And that's why I need all these sacrifices, like sacrifice 10,000 lambs, 4,000 steer, and the first young of all of your livestock to me every single year so that I can just get the free smells like I'm at a worldwide Jimmy John's. Like that, I feel like this is a coherent thing that could be argued, considering at this point that we don't need evidence for anything that we're fucking saying. We're just speculating out of our ass. So we could speculate something coherent out of our ass yet again. Dr. Don Hogg says, read Tim Gigantor Chaffee's The Truth Chronicles. Oh, no, I haven't. I haven't read that. That sounds like something that I would probably not read. Send another super chat to tell me what it's about. I'm kidding. But yeah, since we're speculating out of our ass, we don't have to actually provide evidence for any of this. So there's a coherent way to understand all of this that is just as explanatory power, as much explanatory power as Ken Ham is providing.
There's so many other problems with the gap theory as well. Again, the gap theory was a way devised to try to accommodate millions of years into the Bible, and we need to give up the gap theory. And just
we need to give up the gap theory because it's drawing people away from creationism, because the gap theory works in actual evidence that we have, observational evidence, physical evidence, like all of this scientific evidence is worked into the gap theory, and we just need to stop doing that shit because obviously I want you guys to believe in... Fuck, let me find it. Just 1 second. I want y'all to believe in this shit, the Bible time gate that has a DirecTV satellite on the top of it in order to transport people back in time. I also want y'all to believe that dragons that were fought by whoever in the fuck this is, the whales, the flag of whales. Let's see who. St. George fighting the dragon was actually a dinosaur, and also this guy right here, who's obviously from probably somewhere in the Near East or something. Yeah, they totally studded the spikes on the back of this Kentrosaurus. Kentrosaurus? Like, is that the ancestor of Kent Hovind? Maybe. Who knows? Anyways, they studied those things. We don't have any evidence for any of this shit, but that's what Ken Ham wants you to believe. Also, again, to bring up this shit, fighting for food in front of a straw house back in the 1870s. How we're haven't even gotten to it all yet. Oh, do y'all not remember this particular bullshit from the fucking Bible? Because Ken Ham sure does. What about this shit? Like, they didn't just ride fucking camels. They also had Centosauruses. And Gallimimus. I believe that was in one of the Jurassic Park movies. But yeah, millions and billions of years is just fucking ridiculous.
Just one verse here to finish off with. There are many other inconsistencies I could point out in regard to the gap theory. But read Exodus 20, verse 11. Now, it's the basis of the fourth commandment. In 6 days, God made the heavens and the earth, which is Genesis 1:1, and the sea and all that in them is, which is the rest of Genesis 1, in 6 days, in 6 consecutive days.
So the problem that exists with the whole 6 consecutive days thing is that there was no sun until day 3. How do you have a day-night cycle without the sun? And like a formed Earth that's, well, I guess maybe the Earth was formed at that point, maybe, I'm not sure. But without a sun, how do you have a day-night cycle? I mean, I guess you could have God shining light out of his asshole. Like, he's like, oh shit, it's day now. Hold on, I gotta shine light out. And then I also have to create shit. So he like, maybe put in like a butt cheek spreader. I mean, I feel like God creating a butt cheek spreader in order to shine light out of his ass and then also create things at the same time. I feel like that if God's all powerful, he could definitely do that, right? I mean, is there anything wrong with that, hun? She says that there's a lot wrong with what I'm saying right now, but I'm just saying that God being all powerful could spread his cheeks, keep them open, work on everything else at the same time while being the light source himself. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, this whole literal day-night cycle prior to the sun existing is a bit far of a stretch. There's also this idea that each day was millions and billions of years. And there's a lot of liberal interpretation as to how the Earth came into existence. Of course, we know, you know, how planets form in a solar system. We know that it doesn't take place over days. It takes place over millions of years, even billions of years on occasion, I'm sure. But my point in all of this is that Ken Ham is saying, well, my reading is literal 6 days, even though literal 6 days couldn't have happened. But these people out here are being ridiculous because they're saying millions and billions of years. And it's like, these things are not equal there, Ken. I get it. Old Earth Creationists having an explanation for, like, it's saying that, you know, the Earth was created in 6 days and all this other shit. You know, like stuffing millions of years in there seems a bit ridiculous to me, right? Like, I get that. But for you, that's just pulling shit out of his brown star over there, I feel like it's no different. Like, it's no different than Ken Ham pulling shit out of his ass than Old Earth Creationists pulling shit out of their ass. It's literally creationists just sitting there being like, what can I get out of my ass now? Oh, look, each day was millions and billions of years. What else is in my ass? Kind of thing. It's just a giant ass pulling thing. Huh? It's a gerbil? They're pulling gerbils out of their ass. That's right, hun. Thank you for pointing that out. They're pulling gerbils out of their ass when Ken Ham suggests shit like this. This is a gerbil.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Whatever. You know what I'm saying. Daniel M. says God created the butt cheek spreader for light and used the Jesus butt plug for an eclipse. Baby Jesus butt plug. I don't think anybody will ever forget about that. It was. Baby Jesus butt plug.
There's no room for a gap. In other words, in those 6 days, God made everything in 6 literal days. Because Exodus 20 verse 11 is a basis of the 4th commandment, talking about God made everything in 6 days and rested for 1.
You know what's really kind of crazy, and I'm just not thinking about this, about the whole 6 literal days thing, is that days had various links at different points in Earth's history. Like, it wasn't always a 24-hour day and night cycle. The day and night cycle was actually shorter back when the Earth was moving faster. It's only because of the speed of Earth's rotation now that we have a 24-hour day and night cycle. Of course, humans had only been around for like, 300,000 years. So we've had the same day-night cycle, like the same amount of time day-night cycle, as far as we can perceive it. That I'm not trying to say that there haven't been minute changes in it, but as far as we have perceived it, you know, pretty much 24-hour day-night cycle, roundabouts, not exactly, but roundabouts. And so, I mean, we've only been around 300,000 years, but the day-night cycle wasn't always like a strict 24-hour period. So as the Earth like was moving faster, as it was forming in the early days of the Earth, it would have had a shorter day-night cycle. We've also been able to perceive polar shifts, and we're actually overdue for a polar shift, which, you know, I feel like maybe the death of Mitch McConnell might signify a polar shift, because if the polar shift flips, Mitch McConnell's just going to disappear. I feel like that's how it works with cursed objects. Casey wishes that would happen to Donald Trump.
It's actually the basis of our 7-day.
Huh? She's not sorry about that either. She wishes Dark Brandon would Thanos snap that fuck out of existence. See, she's not even disagreeing with me right now. Like, no, I did not say that. I would not go that far. But no, she would. We've got a gauntlet back there, an infinity gauntlet. If we could, it would happen. You would be like, Trump was in court today and then he suddenly dusted. And he was like, oh no, I don't want to go yet.
Week. That's where the 7-day week comes from.
That's where the 7-day week comes from. Really? Let's see. Let me test Google with this shit. Yeah, I'm fine. When was the 7-day week invented? 321 AD. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I got it. No, I gotta hold it to lift it up. See? I told you we got a gauntlet. We're just waiting for the right time. All right? We're gonna make him disappear like fucking Spider-Man on Titan. Okay? Yeah. Here you go. Thank you, hon. So 321 AD, Emperor Constantine officially decreed a 7-day week in the Roman Empire, including making Sunday a public holiday. In English, the names of the days of the week are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, no. Let's see. Name, definition, duration, days of the week. Let's see. How many days of the week were there there before 321 AD? For centuries, the Romans used a period of 8 days in civil practice. Before 321 AD, the Romans used an 8-day week. So, at the time that the New Testament was written, right, there was an 8-day week. There was not a 7-day week. A 7-day week was not created until much later. Hold on 1 second. Honestly, I feel like it's better, like doing the Google work directly on the stream. Yeah, you know how animated I get. I'm an animated fuck. It's okay. I didn't really spill all that much. Let's see. Dr. Don Hogg said, do you have Jesus in you? Be a lot cooler if you did, with some sunglasses. I actually don't have my meme glasses with me. They're in a drawer somewhere. But I just think it's funny. It's like, that's how the 7-day week was created. No, 7-day week was instituted by Constantine. Prior to that, it was an 8-day week that was instituted by the Roman Empire. So really, we have Constantine to thank for it. And I mean, maybe Constantine got the 7-day week thing from from the Bible, because Constantine instituted a lot of Christian things. So maybe he got it from the Bible. But the fact is that prior to that, there were varying lengths of like the days of the week, and not everybody celebrated like or instituted a 7-day work week. Like, I just feel like there's a bit of nuance here that's not being mentioned. There's a bit of nuance here that's not being discussed by Ken Ham. And I mean, I would hope that he would discuss some of it. It wouldn't take much to discuss these things, but he doesn't. And that's sad. Like, I genuinely want to be convinced by religious arguments. Maybe not necessarily creationism because of how much evidence there is against creationism, but I do genuinely want to be convinced that a God exists and that the Bible gives us accurate information. But that just simply isn't how reality works. Like, nothing that Ken Ham says is how reality works. And I mean, I don't think that anything that the Old Earth creationists say makes any kind of real sense as far as reconciling their faith with actual science. But at least they're not young Earth creationists. Like, I feel like it's saying, oh, well, you took a shit in the bathroom, but you could have taken a shit in the toilet instead of, on the floor beside the toilet. And young Earth creationists are like, I just shat my pants in the living room. I feel like that's a proper analogy for the situation that we're in. Yeah, I do. Because at least the Old Earth creationists are making it to the bathroom and shitting in the floor. Because then you can clean that shit up. Shitting in your pants, I guess, is easy to clean up. But you got shit all over yourself. And, maybe you got that stanky leg going on. And you shook a turd out your leg pants onto the floor in the living room. Who knows? We're talking about it because young Earth creationists are shitheads. And it's applicable in that way. Just saying. I mean, all right. Let's get back to this main screen here. Well, so tonight we've heard Ken Ham explain why he thinks the Old Earth gap theory doesn't make sense. But on orders of magnitude, the Old Earth gap theory is no more ridiculous than young Earth theory. And both of them are speculative and ad hoc and make no sense with the evidence that we have. Where I will give the Old Earth creationists a little bit on this in that they actually work in some science to their faith, but yet they still try to make scientific facts work with their faith. And that's where they fuck up. Ken Ham is just like, fuck scientific facts that disagree with me. But then he embraces scientific facts that agree with him. And so he basically just cherry picks science. Whereas Old Earth creationists just say, oh, science has undoubtedly proven this, so we should probably try to work that into our faith if we're going to continue in our faith. So in that way, I guess Old Earth creationists are a bit more truthful, or at least a bit more consistent with reality. That's pretty much what I have to say about that. And just to remind everybody, Ken Ham, Dinosaurs of Eden right here. For anybody that doesn't know, this is what Ken Ham thinks. He thinks that we rode dinosaurs, we put little metal, studs on their spikes, and we rode them and used them for transportation. And apparently before the fall of Adam and Eve, all of them, even the carnivorous ones, ate plants. So, I mean, there's that, right? Like, I feel like maybe the Old Earth creationists have a little bit more consistency with reality than the young Earth creationists do. But that's going to be it for our video tonight. I hope that you guys appreciated it. Let me know what you thought of Ken Ham's video. Do you think that, he's falling a bit short here on his criticism? Do you think that he even has room to criticize Old Earth creationists, considering what we've shown that he actually believes in the stream tonight? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go yet, because we do have Shit. We do have the Skeptic Mafia comments to go through. Not exactly sure how many we have. We haven't been having too many. We don't have too many tonight. But we do have some. And, you know, to be honest, I don't think I have this part set up on the vertical stream. Casey's like, good. So we're going to be getting to that. Let us move over here. Nope, you see, I don't have it up right here right yet, but I will get it. Browser. Let's see. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get this up for you guys. Video capture device. No window capture. Display capture. All right. It's not going to show up too well on the vertical, but it's there. Nothing does. Well, I've got it set. I got the vertical set to automatically delist itself, so it's not going to show up. The only one that's going to show up on the channel is the main one. Well, because I want people, like, if they're watching after, I want them to come to the main one and not the vertical one. Yeah. All right. So first up is Doubtful Form. Doubtful Form says, currently a fan of Gutsick. Her bite-sized bust based on limestone shows plankton evolving from the lowest to the highest layer in core samples. That's interesting. That's pretty cool. I really like that. She's good people. I really like her. Like, as a creator, that is. Hold on, just fixing something up there. Make it a little bit better. Okay. Next is Trickster, who says, as usual, Ken starts with his classic, "Were you there?" stinger. But he wasn't there either, so how can he claim to know what happened? Not even because his real Genesis was there, so how could he know? I feel like Ken Ham would say, well, I don't have to be there. God was there. And so because God was there, that's all I need. God wrote it down in his book because God penned it with his dick. And that's it. I feel like that's how he would explain things. Ken kept saying millions of years, and of course he's wrong again. Not millions of years, billions of years. 4.65. Shit. 4.65. What did I say earlier? Like 4. I don't know. 4.65 billion years, according to what we know, which has been backed up time and time again by the evidence. Can Ken say that about his book of fables? Which, if you're curious, the mountains and mountains of evidence include radiometric dating, as well as the geologic column, how far back it goes. The fossil record also shows this. We have meteorites, which is has a component of the radiometric dating aspect to it. We've also got the speed of light and the fact that we can see stars in the sky, and how far away some of these stars are also supports all of this. So, I mean, there's mountains of evidence. I'm not just saying mountains of evidence. I'm giving specific lines of evidence here. And I'm sure Trickster, you know, if they had more room, would be able to explain all this too. But you know, we have an understanding. We're both not dipshits, so we understand each other. Okay. Why are we disregarding verse 2? That's not how I was taught to read. If death did not exist in the beginning, then why did there need to be a tree of life? And why did Adam and Eve have to eat? If they weren't going to die anyway, why waste time eating? That is a good point. Like, why give them food anyways if they weren't going to eat? Like, why give them stomachs? Like, why did Adam and Eve have stomachs in the first? Why do animals have stomachs in the first place? Like, were those just another bit of the drastic changes that happened after eating the apple? Why was Eve convinced to eat the apple if she didn't have a stomach to eat? Good question. Like, there are a lot of problems with these design issues. Or even understand the concept of eating. That's a good point there, hon. I don't understand how any of that works. Mr. Hanachek says, where's the evidence? And then a lot of our emojis that the Skeptic Mafia gets to use. And then we've got Tomato Cuddles. Says, just so y'all know, I voted for suffering, not this. Wait, I didn't mean, that is to say, oh, fuck it, it's ASCII time. And then it's, what is that? Maybe if I take a 30,000 foot view of it. My brain's trying to make it out. I'm not sure what it is. Is it dirty? I'm not sure what that is there, Tomato. Oh, shit. I forgot. It's on the same tab. I'll have to look afterwards, but it looks like a face of some kind. Oh, it's a big crying face. Okay. Because Ken Ham knows all about suffering, but if you don't want to suffer, go ahead and lick that like button before I platonically lick you. Is there a platonic licking? Like, I feel like if I go up and I lick somebody, it's definitely not platonic. I only lick you. Y'all know what I mean. And while you're at it, lick the subscribe as well and ding the dinger. Do all the YouTube stuff. And if you're feeling especially charitable, join the Skeptic Mafia for the perks. Insert perks here. And you know the mantra. Casey's always right. Eat your goddamn fruits and veggies and drink some fucking water, you heathens. Tomato out. Thank you so much there, Tomato Cuddles. Appreciate you. Michaels Beverly, who has messaged me and will be doing a collaboration on a video sometime soon. He's recently done a live discussion, or maybe not live discussion, but a discussion with Mike Lacona, which I have to congratulate him on because Mike Lacona would not talk to me. I think it's probably all the videos where I shit talk him, but for whatever reason, he won't talk to me. Michaels Beverly says all the Christians who believe in an old year are going to go straight to hell, sadly, if they only read their Bibles. And then Gary says this should get interesting. See y'all tonight. I don't know if Gary's in the chat, but yeah, he was. Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be it. Boom. And then we're going to hide the comments over here, and I got to make a separate scene for that later. But anyways, that's going to be it for us tonight. We're out rather early. Or rather on time, actually. So I'm so glad that y'all were able to join us tonight, both on the vertical stream and on the normal stream. And, I have to say, Ken Ham just didn't make a lot of sense, and I agree with the Skeptic Mafia and all their criticisms. And, next week, I don't have videos prepared just yet, but I do have plans for videos. So if you will, please join us next week when we're going to talk some more religious foolishness. That was a little hard for me to say for some reason. And I guess we'll talk to you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. It was the whiskey? Okay.